Yo, what's up YouTube? It's TRS, or the real Smokey here, and today I am bringing you my updated single target build for Module 23 on NeverWinter. If you do go on to learn anything or find this video informative, feel free to leave it a like and subscribe. So let's just get into the video by starting off with the gear. And as you can see on the screen, most of this build is from Dragon Hunt, which came out just over 2 months ago on this game. It's made it so it's easier to catch up in gear wise. Obviously you still have to struggle with mount insignias, etc. So the first piece of gear is the Serene Hood of the Dragon Hunter, which is up to 10% crit strike. As a hunter, you can keep this at 10 pretty easy because of how frequent our encounters are, at wills and dailies. You can just keep this up. Next is the Mighty Cutlass of the Dragon Hunter, which is the accuracy and combat version of the ribcage that used to be. Since the last video I've invested in this because obviously the higher accuracy you have, the higher damage output you are. That's a misconception that me and many others were under for the longest of time, that accuracy was the least effective offense stat, when in fact it's one of the better ones. So you may have character that adds 90 in everything else but like mid 50s in accuracy, and then you'll go against someone with the same class and then wonder why they're beating you when they could have 30-40% more accuracy. Next up is the Mighty Vambraces of the Dragon Hunter. This is the best arms we can use at the moment till we get some arms that actually give us percentage based stats. Because as you'll see later on in the build, actual rating stats will be non-applicable to this build essentially. So you gain 1% damage resistance when you hit an enemy up to 5 times. So it makes you a little bit more tankier. And then when you do take hits, regardless of how big or small the hit is, you'll gain 1% damage per stack that's consumed for 10 seconds, which is a full rotation. So by the time you've been hit 5 times, your full rotation, you've got it back. So it's just a constantly going cycle. And as you'll see the armor reinforcement kits that I have on each piece of gear as I'm going through them. Obviously, the main hand is the new masterwork weapons. I was lucky enough that when I got these for a good price, the weapon set I got for a total of 7 million, and at the current price on the market they are now double that. So I caught them at a really good time. The modification that I have on it is increased damage done by aim shot and aim strike, which that is your main at will in this build, or in my build. And then the offhand I am using forte and accuracy. As you can see, I don't have a perfect roll on accuracy, but I have a damn near perfect one. 2492, I'm only missing 8 points on it. Them 8 points will not make a huge difference. Next up is the Tactical Boots of the Dragon Hunter. The reason I'm using these is because, for one, it's a higher percentage than the Wasteland Wanderers, and two, I don't need the combat advantage. Because as a HR, your action points are never more than 80%. So these are just free power onto your build, which it is in percentage wise. Because rating wise, yeah, you can cap out, but that's only 50%. You still got to find the other 40 elsewhere, and this helps towards it. It's almost a 20th of the extra percentage that you need. Next up is the neck piece, which is the Dragonhide Choker, which the set bonus of this is when using encounter power, you gain a stack of Alcrity, I think that is, gaining you 2.5% combat advantage and 5% movement speed for 5 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. As a HR, stacking this is stupidly easy. So, in scale content, this set is not the best. So when it comes to scaled content, you'll either want to use the music box set or the demo set. That personal preference is up to you. I like this set because it's just higher item level for unscaled content like Tom, Zariel, Crown, and any Reaper that you do. Next up is the rings, which the first ring is the Band of Air. This is just, at the moment, this is best in slot. We'll have to see how this performs once we get the upcoming changes that was discussed earlier on in this mod, but we don't know when they're going to be applied. Next up is the Soothsayer Ring of Absolution, which is just 7% extra crit chance. If you don't want to go with the boots and you go with Wasteland Wanderers, you'll want to use the Red-Eyed Glare here instead to make up some of the power percentage that you've been missing from the boots. So you can use either or, but I'm obviously using these for the higher item level, because as you can see my item level is 82,800. I'm nearly capped on the rating. I'm just missing a few components like the +1 main hand and a couple of collars, which you will see later on. Next up is the Dragonhide Sass, which is just to finish off the artifact set. And then obviously I'm using the new pants and shirt. So obviously I've gone with the Crit Sev one, because it's just what's fitting to my build the best out of all the other ones. You do have other options you can use. Like you could use a combat advantage shirt, but if you've been doing dragons, you'll know that that -25 control resistance can make a difference. I'm not saying it will hinder you if you dodge the attacks, but if you do get hit by one, you'll be prone for a lot longer. And as you can see, I've got the combat advantage and accuracy one. These are just... Sorry that I keep taking a little breaks, I'm drinking a cuppa. Obviously you'll use whatever one fits your build better. So some people like the 5%. I'm obviously sticking with the Nuso. And then obviously the pants are the crit ones, because I think these are the most offensive stats that we have on a pair of pants up to the date of recording this, which is 2nd of August 2020. 2022 says there. Next up is artifacts, which the artifacts I'm using now are just the 1200 artifacts, which are also balancing my stats out. So I've got the repurposed phylactery, which is just crit save, combat advantage, and hit points. I've got the Dragonbone blades, which is crit save, crit chance and accuracy. Just a nice spread of stats on an artifact. The third artifact I've got is the Red Dragon Mark, which is just to finish off the set bonus, but it's a good artifact all around anyway, because it does a lot of power through the actual power rating, plus a little bit of forte, so this nets you about 2250 power, which is huge for an artifact. And then my main artifact at the moment that I'm using as a debuff is NeverWinter Standard. This one you can change around for whatever you want. It's just your stats will adjust a little bit. I've personally been using this one or the Black Dragon, the new Black Dragon artifact, which is just pure defensive stats, I know, but that's it for artifacts. Next I will go over powers and feats. As you can see, the main at will I'm using is Aim Shot. Well, you can slot whichever other one into your other at will slot. I personally use Split Shot to add a little bit more AoE elements to the build if needed, like some boss fights do have mobs that spawn, so this does help, because this has a better chance of proccing the Band of Air than Aim Shot. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, I'm just saying it's got better rates. And the encounter powers I'm using are Hindering Shot, Constricting Arrow, and Longstriders. The reason I'm using these is because it's just what I prefer. I know there is some HRs that would use Commanding Shot, which is also nice for the group because it adds a 10% debuff to the enemy, so it's just 10% more damage on that single target that you hit with it. But I'm personally using Longstriders. Next up is Forest Ghost and Disrupted Shot, because obviously Disrupted Shot is the daily we mainly use, and I only have Forest Ghost on is if I get to a boss fight and I'm over 80%, I will just pop Forest Ghost, get my action points under, so I'm all good to go. So Forest Ghost is just a AP management tool. Next up I'm using Secret Vengeance and Aspect to the Pack. I'm using Aspect to the Pack because it's nice to just get the 5% combat advantage when you've got allies near you within 30 yards, which even in trials, 9 times out of 10 people are there when you're dealing damage. So you will more than likely always have the 5% up from this. I know some people prefer crushing roots to make your roots last twice as long. But I don't really like it, so that's why I stick with Secret Vengeance and Aspect to the Pack. And then obviously the Feats. Feats are pretty much self-explanatory. You got Rate of Change, which gives you a 15% damage bonus, a 15% damage boost, when switching stance. Next is Fawn Roots, which is just targets that can be rooted will take 75% magnitude damage every second. Targets that can't be controlled, so most boss fights, they'll just take a 225 magnitude damage from your powers that do root them. Next up is Predator, which using a range encounter applies prey to the first target hit, increasing the damage of your attacks against that target by 10% last 10 seconds. This is pretty much a constant uptime. Next up is Forest Bond, which is just helps with the cooldowns, with your strong roots, your formed roots. And then next up is Modern Disrupted, which Disrupted Shot increases your ranged powers by 10% pretty much for 5 seconds. So you'll use this, you'll do your range encounters and you'll be off to the races with damage. I know some people prefer to go with Slash's Experience, because Slash's Mark is a good daily, but I personally just prefer the disrupted shot rotation. So if you have any questions about the slash and mark rotation, put it down in the comments, and I'm sure someone, if not myself, but someone else in the community could help you out with that rotation. But this video is all about learning after all. And then obviously these are just stuff you get. Obviously I'm a gift at the moment, so I get 5% combat advantage while getting 5% stamina back quicker. Next up is the Boons. I will just leave this here for you for about 20 seconds so you can have a look, but Boons are pretty much self-explanatory. Keep getting them, put them wherever you want. Right, so next up is Guild Boons. Obviously at the moment I am using the Accuracy Boon, but you just use whatever your guild has. If you don't have Accuracy, I would recommend using Crit or Crit Save. So just use what you can and then make adjustment to the build where needed. In defense, I'm just using defense because more defense, less damage you take. And in utility, on single target, I will run Red Sickness most times, unless I'm like just running around on this build questing, and then I'll put mount speed on or movement speed, depending on what I'm doing. But most times it will be Red Sickness. Next up is Companions. I know some of you in the last video asked me where I got the Tarnished Emerald Talismans of the Companions. For those of you that can't complete Crown of Keldagon, you can just run multiple alts through the Skylight Summit Adventure questline if you've got things at level 20, because the Tarnished pieces come out of this Companion Equipment Choice Pack that you can see in the stream right now. And obviously the rough AD on your alts is also nice. So I've got 3 of them. Obviously I'm still using the Icosahedron Iron Sun because it's just the best that fits this build. But the other ones that I would recommend if you did use any would be the Owlbear Cub, because accuracy, combat advantage and crit save is also nice to use. Just depends on how you go about your build. And then we got the companion bonuses. Obviously with it being a single target build, Bateri is going to be your best one that you can have at the moment. 11% damage against bosses. No one can beat that. In defensive slot, I've got the bigger they are. Obviously most bosses are 5-star rating in this game, or 5 circles so say. So that'll be an extra 8.6% damage. I don't know if it's multiplicable or additional. I'm not overly too sure on. But either way, it's more damage. Next up, we've got Drix and Wolfguard. Because they've just got a nice spread of stats. Obviously, crit chance, crit save, combat advantage, and accuracy. Up to a total of 18 when you're using 2 of them. Because instead of it being 7.5, they give 9% of stats each. Obviously, if you don't want to use these and you want to go with lower accuracy, you could use, if you're doing dragon hunts, you could use the Dragon Hunter, I think it's called, or you could even use Neverwinter's Night. And obviously if you're using a Raptor build, if you're copying this build directly and you're going to use a Raptor build, you'll take off the font in the utility slot and the boots. That equals 10.75%. I know it says 3.8, but because of how the game is, it rounds it up. And then obviously you'll have to drop 5% power elsewhere. But yeah, that's it for comps. And next up is mounts. I know I didn't show this in the last video I did, it was just an oversight on my end, so I do apologise for that. But as you can see, I'm using 1 shepherd, 3 gladiators and 1 assassin, because 2 assassins I don't need. So shepherd's devotion, whenever you use a daily, you increase your allies' defense and movement speed, which is always nice, so it's constantly up because of how often and frequent we use our dailies. And the collars I have is a practical regal collar. The next collar is a sturdy crescent collar 5, which is just encounter powers do more damage, which is nice. Next up is a supportive one, which is salmon again. That's going to be probably the next collar I upgrade. If you play the game, obviously you know how expensive collars are to upgrade. 100 greater charge, even with Reaper and them on being 100,000 AD on market, it still adds up. Next up is the Unified Crescent collar, which is just more movement speed. And the last one is Wayfaring Barbed collar. It's just 5% crit save, which is nice. Obviously, I'm using tunnel vision because it's just a single target build, and I'm using rapid accuracy. But if you don't want to use this and you want to get 1 or 2 extra, well not 1 or 2, but a few more extra procs, the Band of Air, I would recommend turning this off and going to Ferocity, which at the moment Ferocity can proc the Band of Air. But of course, if the changes do come and its additional effects can't proc the Band of Air, Ferocity won't do out with this. So you'll be wanting to go back to a 4500 stat. So obviously I'm ahead of the curve. I'm thinking ahead. So that is everything, if I'm not mistaken, other than rotation, which obviously I will show you the rotation now. The rotation is Disruptive Shot, Hindering, Aim Shot twice, Longsiders and Constricting, Aim Shot twice again, Switch Stance, Hindering, Longsiders, Constricting, Swap Stance, Aim Shot twice, and repeat. And the way why I'm doing my rotation like this is because Hindering Shot or proc Prey, which will make your Longsiders do more. I'm doing it this way now is because I got some constructive criticism on my last video, which I do appreciate that. So if you are still listening at this point, I just want to say thank you. And that's it for the rotation. So now we will be going on to stats. As you can see on your screen, it might be a little different because I'm not showing you in-game stuff now. In the top left, you'll see the potions I'm using, which is squash soup, a wild storm elixir, and flash of potency, which is just a good spread of stats, which is obviously 5% crit chance, 5% crit save on the soup. The Wild Storm Elixir is 2000 crit strike and 5% critical severity. And then the Flash of Potency, which is 550 crit strike, accuracy and power, and an additional 5% crit save. So on the right hand side of your screen, you'll see what my stats are just potted up. So as you can see, I've got 88.9% power. Obviously I'm not capped on power by myself because I rely on Runic Aura, which most tanks and healers do run. I've got 74% accuracy, 60.7% combat advantage, 78.9% crit strike, and 90% crit save. And in the bottom left you can see what my stats proc in combat. Obviously with combat advantage it starts at 60.7%. 7.5 from the chest piece, 7.5 from the set bonus, 5% from aspect of the pack, and 7.5 from a cute sense, which is the companion bonus that I use. That's one thing I didn't show, which nets me a total of 27.5% combat advantage in combat, which is easily procable to get it up to that. Power, I'm at 88.9 with 2.3% from runic aura, so I am over on power by a little bit, but as you can see by my stats, I don't exactly have much area that I can shift that about in. I could spread it out between the stuff, but it'd be a hard task because you can't really play around with little margins like that. Accuracy starts at 74%, but again 7.5% from the chest piece, which puts me at 81.5%. And then obviously my crit strike is at 78.9%, and I get up to 10% from the headpiece. So even if I'm only averaging 7 or 8, if I'm having to do dodge mechanics, etc., I'm still in the mid 80s for crit chance. And obviously with my combat advantage only being at 88.2%, you throw in a tutor modifier, which is you'll take your combat advantage times it by 1.05 to see what the tutor is. So with a tutor I am at 92.6%. So if I don't have anywhere to really drop it, and that's why I'm using the power boots instead of the wasteland wanderers, because as you can tell my combat advantage is high already. So if you have found this video to be informative, please leave it a like, subscribe for more, and until next time, peace.